Hello everyone and welcome to this awesome slideshow presentation that I have compiled all the stuff that I've learned into one single slideshow presentation. So I would like to share with you my book review. So I chose the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a self-help book, so I will be sharing with you all some of the important lessons I have learned from it. So some of these ideas might stand out to you, or while others might just seem obvious and like common sense, but we gotta make sure we don't skip over them or else we'll miss out on some of their benefits. So let's get started. So here's slide 2. So for part 1 it says fundamental techniques in handling people. So for the first principle, it says don't criticize, complain, or condemn. So basically in general, just avoid giving out criticisms or any form of feedbacks that is just going to deteriorate someone's ego, because when you criticize them, it just tends to provoke resentment within them and make them dislike you. Which brings me to my next principle, principle 2. Give honest and sincere appreciation. One of the best fundamental ways to show appreciation for someone and make them feel important is to simply praise them and make sure it's a meaningful comment, or it would just seem like you're trying to be nice to them casually. So like for example, instead of just saying thank you, say thank you for, and then tell them your reason why you are thanking them. It really doesn't take a lot to boost a person's ego, so make sure your compliment is actually genuine flattery. So there's actually a quote in the book that says something like, flattery comes from the tongue and appreciation comes from the heart. So basically, just know that flattery is insincere while appreciation is genuine. So choose appreciation over flattery. Next up, we have big idea number 3. Arouse in the other person an eager want. This may not always be an easy thing to do, but if you can somehow benefit the other person and offer value for them, they're more willing to reciprocate that back to you in the end. So it's a win-win scenario. Alright, so for the next slide, we're going to be talking about ways to make people like you. It was originally named 6 ways to make people like you, with 6 principles, but I've chosen only 4 or 5 principles which I thought were most important, and left out 1 or 2 of the others. So, principle number 1, become genuinely interested in other people. Once again, there's a quote in the book that says something like, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming genuinely interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. So, in order to make new friends, all you have to do is smile, introduce yourself, and encourage the person to talk about themselves. And the key thing, obviously, here is to be a good listener and be genuinely interested in what they are saying, because doing this makes them feel like themselves because they have someone who can listen to them. So by the end of the conversation, bam, you have made a new friend. Congrats! Another important thing to do when you meet someone new is to remember their name and say it correctly, which brings us to our next principle. Remembering that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any life. From personal experience, whenever we have a substitute at school, he or she would call out people's names in our class for attendance, and every single time they would call me by my real name in front of the class, and it used to embarrass me so much back in elementary and middle school, but now I've practically gotten used to it, but I still prefer to be called Kenny instead of my real name. So yeah, also being genuinely interested in other people shows that you are paying attention to them, because you can remember and say their name correctly, which makes you a more likable person, and we've talked about this already, so just skip that. So the last big idea on how to get people to like you is just to talk in terms of their interest. Talking about the other person's interest is actually not as hard as it seems. You just need to be willing to be a good listener, be genuinely interested in them, and asking them questions throughout the conversation. This is a great way to help you become a better conversationalist and hold one-on-one conversations with someone, because you are showing that person that you respect their interests and connect at the level of what they value, and over time they will respect your politeness and patience. So basically the main takeaway from principle 4 is that people don't really care about your interests. They care more about themselves, so you should try to talk more about what they like so that you can get them to become your friends, because if all you do is talk about what you like, then they're not interested in you. So for the next slide, we have how to win people to your way of thinking. For principle 1, it says, The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Personally though, I agree and disagree with this because there will be times that it's worth debating about an important topic, but at the same time you should be respectful and consider the other person's ideas and opinions. However, most of the times it's just best to step back and avoid the argument completely if it's not necessary. But obviously it's your choice to choose whether to continue the argument or to end it completely if it's not necessary. So next up we have principle number 2. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say you're wrong. This is usually a situation where you try to prove someone wrong and you might end up being right, but that still doesn't change their opinions because you have hurt their feelings and ability to judge matter. An alternative response could be, hey, I thought otherwise and I may be wrong, but let's discuss it together and try to come to a mutual agreement. Next up, we have principle 4. Get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. So this is basically saying that you have to come up with an enticing incentive or some sort of benefit for the other person to trigger them to agree with you. Once you've gotten them to say yes, yes, or agree with you on the first part, it's a lot easier to persuade them to cooperate with you on other things moving forward. So that's why it's really important to get them to say yes, yes. Next up, principle 5. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Basically saying that you should try to consider the other person's ideas and feelings as important as your own. Here's a quote from the book that talks about cooperativeness in conversation is achieved when you show that you consider the other person's ideas and feelings as important as your own. Once again, another great advice. When you try to understand the other person's feelings and opinions and value it just as much as yours, it creates less tension and resistance and makes it easier to work things out. So definitely start using this strategy. Okay, so for our last slide, we're going to talk about some habits that you can sort of manifest to help you become a better leader. Starting with idea number 1, begin with praise and honest appreciation. Who doesn't like a praise that is literally honest and sincere? Honest praises helps us notice and appreciate what we like in those around us. It also benefits you because when you're trying to come up with something genuine to compliment the other person, you tend to change your thinking about that person. And we'll just skip number 2 since it's not really that relevant. So let's move on to idea number 3. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. The basic idea here is that whenever you are about to criticize someone, make sure to remind them that you have made far bigger mistakes in the past than they have. Doing this reduces resistance between them trying to justify their mistakes because they have heard about your flaws, which makes them more likely to open up to your suggestions and advice that you might have for them. For idea number 4, ask questions instead of giving orders. This is a great strategy for dealing with people. Basically, people in general just do not like being given orders, and when you tell them to do so and so, it will make you come off as bossy. So instead, what you can do is give the other person suggestions in such a subtle way that they don't even realize you are sort of in a way giving them an order to do. It's pretty much all about your tone and the way you deliver what you have to say to the other person that really matters. So try to do that in an elegant and easy to approach manner and they will listen to you. So for idea number 5, praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. Basically, the basic idea behind this principle is that praising someone encourages and inspires them to work harder and aim for bigger goals. So if you praise them for every little thing that they do right, it will definitely boost their self-esteem, therefore making them listen to you and making them easier to work. Alright, this is the end of the video. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and that is all the key points that I wanted to share with you all. Hope you find it helpful and make sure to try out one of these strategies and see how it goes. Also, it's kind of ironic that I chose this topic to share with you all considering that I'm mostly an introvert, but not just any introvert, an introvert that has a goal to become more social and outgoing. So, once again, definitely try out one of these strategies. You won't regret it, and have a nice day.